All right, good morning, everyone. All right, a great round of applause. Thank you, Captain Holtzlander, for the great introduction. I noted on your slides that the Army was listed first on all the service seals. I think that's because we're awesome. Maybe not in football, you're right. It's hard to, but that's why they play the game. Maybe I'll be lucky this year. 14 is the lucky number. All right, as Mr. Rivera announced earlier or talked through before, I am Colonel Brian Lyttle. I'm the Program Executive Officer for Cyber Capabilities. I work directly for Mr. John Hickey, who's the Cyber Executive. In a change from what our organization was roughly a year ago, Mr. John Wilmer has been fleeted up to become Mr. Rivera's deputy, so taking on an expanded set of duties. Mr. Hickey has been pulled in, but he also has an expanded set of duties. So what does that mean? That means that we have designated PEOs, Captain Holtzlander and myself, within the business center. Mr. Hickey is now responsible for the depth and breadth of the entire .mil PF framework, the doctrine, the organization, training, leadership, material, personnel, facilities, on behalf of the director, and just looking across the entire agency for how do we conduct cyber operations and specifically defense of the DoD, the DoD information networks. I get to be the M part of that .mil PF, and that's why I'm speaking to you today, our industry partners, on exactly what we're looking at for the future. So I have several slides as intro up front. My belief is that if you better understand our operations and what we're looking for how we operate and defend the networks, you'll be able to provide us not just better products, but also pull in things from different areas across the DoD and with other industry partners. All right, so for our first slide, we are kind of Atlas supporting the rest of the world. We're a supporting construct. We don't operate or provide cybersecurity products just for the sake of cybersecurity. They really are integrated into the rest of the information network operations in support of other operations, both in the kinetic world and into cyberspace of itself. Our vision is that we will be able to have cyber dominance across the world, for global operations and as well as for DISA operations itself. DISA is the ISP for the Defense Department. To put it in a smaller soundbite, we have a huge mission space. I'm constantly surprised at how much we provide for the Department of Defense. I mean, that's why you have a DISA, is to provide IT efficiencies for the entire Department of Defense, whether it's a reuse case or conducting that service as funded by the combatant commands and the armed services themselves. I'm going to talk to you about cyber. Mr. Jake Marcellus, who's one of our division chiefs, is going to follow me and be between you and lunch, and he'll talk about mobility. The major parts of the cyber portfolio I'm going to talk to you today about are perimeter, situation awareness, the endpoint or the actual individual machine, mainly focused at tablets, laptops, desktops, servers, the Joint Regional Security Stack, our mid-tier defense product line, and then tying it all together, the readiness portions, training, and actually helping people understand cyber readiness and be prepared to mitigate threats on their own. All right, so to understand our operations, we derive many of our requirements and our strategic end state goals, objectives from the overall DoD cyber strategy that the Secretary of Defense has pushed out. I need to have ready forces and cyber operations, defend, secure, and mitigate networks themselves in our operations, but also defend the homeland. So much of this is at the stratosphere level, to borrow a term from my Air Force compadres, but that does derive down into some strategic goals for DISA, the agency. So as an agency, we need to recruit, develop, and train our professional workforce, but also build, operate, and defend the network and conduct DoD operations. So as PEO Cyber, we provide a significant amount of effort in building cyber capabilities, developing them, and then operating them and providing direct support, not just to the COCOMs, but also down to the services and even the base post camps and stations that are across the Department of Defense. We do partner with the National Security Agency and others, specifically U.S. Cyber Command and Joint Force Headquarters DODIN. They have operational command and I'll say help develop some of those requirements very specifically with us, but also provide authoritative direction to us for how to secure and operate the network. And DoD CIO has the policy lane and overall steering effort for where we want to drive into the long-range future. And that's where we're looking at the DoDIN cyber strategic end state. And what are we looking at when we actually evaluate products, and where do we want to go? This is what you need to focus on as part of the strategic end state. Establishing a defendable network, automatically remediating vulnerabilities and insecure configuration. So we have a huge network, roughly 4 million endpoints, plus everything that is in between there, the base post camp station up to the perimeter. No amount of manpower is going to solve all of our problems. So we are going to have to rely upon technology to solve some of these problems for us and automatically remediate them, rather than conducting a manual process as done in many places right now. We've seen this technology conducted with some of the larger commercial partners, as well as some of the industry folks that are out there that operate bigger networks. They've already gone to this. It's enabled them to draw down their manpower dedicated just to watching screens, but also to, going to bullet number 3, actually hunt across the network and look for an adversary that has penetrated and is taking action within your friendly network. Sometimes it is days, weeks, months, sometimes years to find an active threat that is on the network. We're trying to recapitalize some of those personnel who are watching screens and panes of glass to actually walking through the network and looking for threats that are already present today. The insider threat, the 4th bullet on the bottom, that is our most likely threat. You've seen some of the things in the news. That remains an issue for us, so we're trying to safeguard from that as part of the infrastructure. And then also sharing situational awareness to the network defender, commanders, and staffs of what is actually occurring on the network. Combatant commands and the services have all placed this near the top of their priority lists for solutions and providing an integrated capability for not just what is happening in my kinetic space, which is done mainly through the global command and control system Captain Holtzlander talked about, but how do I integrate cyber operations and knowledge of what's occurring on the networks today in support of my kinetic operations or conducting cyberspace operations independent of those as well. So what our architecture, this is an architecture slide from the Joint Information Environment, divided up into roughly 4 different areas. They do relate back to the strategic goals set out by the SecDef. In the upper right-hand corner, perimeter security. So we have roughly 40 products that I oversee and manage and trying to move forward together, starting at the perimeter to the mid-tier, endpoints, cyber situational awareness to cap it all together, along with cyber readiness training. I'm going to talk to you in depth a little bit at the end of this for some of the perimeter products and the other areas as well. But just to put it all together, you can see the complexity of the architecture that we have to operate and defend today. And these are just the defensive products. That probably gives you an idea for why we want to automatically remediate vulnerabilities and put our trust into some of the commercial products or other innovative products provided by industry partners. Content filtering, email, security gateway, the sensors, the DMZs, going back and forth between us, our federal partners, coalition partners, and the networks. Trying to mitigate denial of service attacks. You had the Internet of Things attack that was conducted a few weeks ago. Endpoint security in the data centers, the actual individual endpoints, trying to secure all those, provide situational awareness of what is going on there, in addition to the antivirus or spyware programs that we have operating there. The mid-tier defense is joint regional security stack and the cross-domain enterprise services. Cyber situational awareness, big data platform. Big data analytics is prevalent within industry. I've seen the power and what it allows them to do and see and understand and act decisively within their specific companies and how they operate. Security information event module I'll speak to in a couple minutes on the backup slides in our defense industrial base network, just reporting of cyber incidents. Cyber readiness, right now we don't have any projected contracts within the next 9 to 12 months, but after that there'll be a few more being released there. Those are capstone things that we're doing along with the cyber range to help prepare our forces and train individuals to be ready and understand cybersecurity. All right, some observations for industry partners. Not just targeted towards commercial industry, but also to our research and development partners, whether in the research labs or the research and development commands that are across the services. I just showed you the architecture slide. It's very complex. That is driving some inefficiencies in the operational forces, not just within DISA, but also within the services themselves. The amount of data that moves through there and the choices of tools is driving inefficiencies and making it difficult and complex to understand. I had the observation that not only do we do defense in depth, perimeter, regional, endpoint, But I also, within each of those, have different vendors, and it's almost vendor in-depth within depth on top of that. So it compounds the problem that we have. So integrating all of those things, such as the sensors, the management tools that actually operate the network, and any kind of situation awareness tools, has become increasingly complex and difficult. So what I'm leading to is I'm going to have to eliminate some things within the architecture themselves to try and simplify it and reduce it down. And that's the second major bullet. Do everything suites tend to integrate pretty well, but they don't have necessarily the best capabilities. So we have to strike a balance between those individual niche products and the Swiss Army utility knife that does everything okay. We'll have to be very careful about what we do there. We're overwhelming the network defenders and the analysts and with the number of indicators, alerts, and warnings that come through. Interoperability across the ecosystems and across different product lines, I highly desire that. Alerts, warnings, indicators that come out of an individual endpoint. As I said, we have roughly 4 million of them. That's a lot. And channeling them up to the cyber defense security provider and having folks take action on those. Can I actually key that into something that's within a cyber kill chain effort? Can I link that back to a specific actor with the help of the intelligence community and determine that there's an actual campaign occurring against the Homeland or against Defense Department elements in and of themselves? So trying to work all those things across and understand what is occurring is going to be key. And it's, my last bullet there, as Captain Holtzlander noted, I think at best our budget's going to remain stable. Cyber is a big issue right now. It is in the news every day. However, the services budgets are also drawing down from the real-world operations, and they're going to continue to be reliant upon DISA to provide the overall enterprise capabilities on their behalf. So we're going to have an increased amount of pressure upon us to provide different capabilities or expand out capabilities from where we are today. So I'm seeking some internal efficiencies in order to provide the new capabilities and modernize them. I just kind of walked through right now our desperate need to modernize and to move forward with different tool sets and perhaps even innovate. And that's not on the slide up here today. Recently had the chance to make a swing through several of our partners out on the West Coast. It is their current SecDef's direction that we provide innovation and come back into the Department of Defense. The DIUX, the Defense Innovative Experimental Unit, is currently stationed out in Silicon Valley. We've had a couple of trips with them to see what is occurring there. Mr. Carter has also stood up an innovation office and appointed a chief innovation officer for the Department of Defense, I believe deliberately targeted at the third offset strategy for the department. If you've not heard of that, we had one offset under Eisenhower. That was to counteract the massive forces from then the Soviet Union. We did that with nuclear weapons. Then into the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we had precision technology and stealth technology to counteract some of those other massive forces. Now we're going into the third offset strategy, which is the use of technology to get inside the enemy's or the adversary's decisions-making cycle. So for us, that comes down into maybe using the big data platform and the massive amount of information that we have within our networks to get inside that space, to get inside the kill chain, to take action before it becomes a very active campaign and has effects on us. So that's what I'm looking for on the innovation side of the house. It's not necessarily an evolutionary, that's a good thing too of where we are right now, but I'm also looking for something that's disruptive. Perhaps eliminate, the introduction of streaming media and movies over the internet, eliminating block and mortar stores, you can also use the Model T. The innovation there was not necessarily it's a great car, but it was no longer a handcrafted car, it was into a factory. So looking for disruptive technology to insert into our operations process. All right. For some specific acquisition opportunities, I do have a few sound bites for here. I think all of you have walked past the purple-clad tables that are in the back. I have several division chiefs and branch chiefs here who have much more detailed technical knowledge and exactly what they're looking for I'll say the criteria and what we're looking for on these specific examples. But a few talking points for each one. For break and inspect, coming out of our perimeter security division, we've already completed the RFI. We're preparing the proposal and the request for quote now. Looking to break 443 type traffic and inspect what is exactly occurring within there. There's an increasing amount of network traffic. We need to be able to see that and understand what is infiltrating and exfiltrating from the networks and be able to take action on that. This is also combined in with Joint Regional Security Stack product a little bit later in the brief. But integration with other tool suites is going to be pretty important within there, and we've got several folks I know who are interested in that. Enterprise Email Security Gateway, little known fact, roughly 85% of all the email coming in and out, maybe higher, maybe lower, is spam. We know that's our biggest avenue of approach. We're looking to replace the technology that's there and upgrade it. Conduct anti-spam, antivirus, and content filtering services within those specific pieces of gear that help guard our perimeter. Cross-domain enterprise services. For this particular contract, this is folks working in support of our program management office. And what cross-domain services is how do I send information to and from coalition, friendly networks, and classified networks. So it's actually working with us up in the building on site, providing those services directly to the PMO. For ITSM, IT services management, we have a couple of commercial products within this space right now, looking to consolidate that down and replace the existing ITSM solutions and extend it out across the DISA enterprise and potentially out into the rest of the Defense Department as well. All right, transport and compute convergence. I have a lot of different tool suites out across the entire DISA enterprise. Probably too many of them. They were built at a time when they were needed for a specific purpose, but their time has come and gone. And looking to unify many of those capabilities or neck them down to provide operational support system type solutions, neck those down on behalf of the operations folks within DISA and how we support across the entire DODN. ID4, our network operations division, also needs, say, engineering support in-house as well to support all of those capabilities. That's the middle bullet there. And then the last bullet, this is a renewal of the current McAfee licenses, probably going to go to a small business and just currently replace the licenses that we have across the architecture today. For endpoint security services, looking for new solutions. We're trying to separate out the licensing from the actual integrator contract that we have in place now. Maintaining the McAfee licenses and expecting some cost efficiencies to come out of that right now. Acropolis and sensor operations, we do have a fairly large, robust set of capabilities that's almost a mini data center that we operate as part of our cyber defense service provider enclave. And the folks running this contract would actually help provide the technical engineering and then operate and sustain this on a 24/7 basis and support operations across the world. ACAS is one of our sensor products. It's actually a GOT piece of gear that we place onto each of the individual endpoints, and it actually detects and responds back to HBSS with the operating system and then other pieces of software that are on there and their current patching status. So we're looking to renew that. Cyber situational awareness. The top bullet here is a contractor who is going to help us conduct operations in support of the government personnel on site. This is anywhere from systems engineering to monitoring, I'll say, incoming software and conducting IV&V and then responding back and making sure that it covers down all of the metrics we've captured and what the software is supposed to do. C&D tools as well. We have a potential convergence of this with other products, and as we try and consolidate all of our different products down, I've mentioned that before. But Joint Regional Security Stack, these two probably are no surprise. They're within the architecture and planned out today. Red Seal, just a continuation of the current product there, looking hardware, software, and training support, i.e. professional services on specifically the Red Seal product. And then for JRSS, looking for web content filtering and break and inspect products to be integrated in as part of those suites as well. All right. So that is all that I have for you today. I think I have the opportunity for a few questions if you have them. All right. Either I was really great or everybody's really ready for lunch. All right.
Well, thank you, Colonel.
All right, thanks, guys. I'll be followed by Mr. Marcellus.